Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. And boy, do we have someone today who has been a thought leader in business and in life and all points in between. Paul Glover of the No B.S Executive Leadership Coach fame. Paul, thank you so much for taking some time to jump on the call with me today.
Well, Greg, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call and to talk to you and also to your audience. I believe I've got a message that people need to hear and should hear, and you're giving me the opportunity to spread that message. So I appreciate that.
That's great. And Paul and I set out the ground rules before the call. No discussion about Packers, Bears, no discussion about who's won more games or who's dominated the other team in the recent 10 years or so. So we're going to move on from that.
That's okay. If I'd known you were a Packer fan, I would have declined your invitation.
Right. So obviously we've been doing some sparring, and that's, Paul has got an amazing background as a federal trial lawyer, correct?
That is correct.
And Paul, why don't you give us your history, because this is going to be surprising to a lot of folks, your background, which is absolutely amazing.
Sure, I will, Greg. So yes, I was a practicing trial lawyer in federal court in Chicago for 25 years. I ended my career involuntarily. I went to trial for committing white-collar crimes, was found guilty after my second trial, and was sentenced to 5.5 years in a federal penitentiary. Needless to say, that destroyed my law career. It also left my family destitute financially and emotionally. No one knew I was a crook. And when I got out, first let me take you through the prison experience, because I went into prison the first 2 years. I engaged in revenge fantasy. I was going to get even with everyone who'd put me in prison. It was only after that third year in prison that I came to the rather rude awakening that I put myself in prison. Mm-hmm. And I realized at that point that if I hadn't gone to prison, I wasn't going to change. And if I didn't change, I would have been dead. That's the people I was associating with. And even though I committed white-collar crimes, the people I represented committed other crimes. And I was a part of that mix, and obviously paid the price for being that. But I also realized I wasn't going to practice law anymore. And as I looked at what I was going to do with my career, I wanted it to be more meaningful. Because I'd gone into prison and I was not, I had never provided, I was never of service to anyone. I mean, I represented my clients. I made sure that they got proper representation. I was a very good trial lawyer. I took care of my family. I loved my family. But the reality was I took care of myself. I was not of service. And I decided when I got out, I'd gone through a transformational experience of being in prison, that I was going to be of service. And so I decided that I was going to become a leadership coach, because I had associated with enough leaders to know they needed coaching. But I also think they need a certain kind of coaching. And that's why the title is the No B.S Leadership Coach, because I came out of prison with an attitude about what leadership should be. I believe that it is a privilege, but also an obligation. Therefore, leaders have got to be the best they can be. They've got to commit to it. And so many leaders don't, or they commit to it at the beginning of their career. And once they've become so successful, they stop. And so my program is based on that premise of giving leaders the gift of truth. And I give it to them not because it's my opinion, but because it's a belief. But my belief, practicing attorney, I require proof before I can commit to anything. If you can give me your opinion, I might appreciate your opinion, but that doesn't mean you're going to change my mind. One of my taglines is, I could be wrong, but I'm not. And the reason I can say that is not with arrogance, but with experience and with research. I'm a research geek about leadership. So when a leader challenges me about a concept, a premise, they have to convince me that they're right and I'm wrong. Most of the time, they don't do that, by the way, because they think their opinion is the only thing that counts. I don't think the opinion counts much if you can't back it up with evidence, research, and performance. So yeah, I tell everybody, I'm not selective, but I'm selected out by most people, most leaders who are recommended to me. 80% of those who come to me and we have this kind of conversation decide that they don't like how this is going to go
Hmm.
because I consider myself to be on an equal footing with many of the leaders that I have interacted with, not because they are more successful financially, but I've become more successful based on my experience. And that's what I want to share, and I'm more than happy to share. I also get paid for that, by the way. It's not a charity.
Sure.
And so that's where I'm at today. And I've got a national coaching program. Right now, there's 69 leaders in it.
Wow.
The first response from other coaches is, that's not possible. Well, I'm a time Nazi. We schedule every other week for 12 months when you come into my program. And by the way, I'll give you one other thing that I believe keeps me in the game, and that is 50% of my compensation is based on the person I'm coaching reaching their goal.
Wow.
And at the end of the year, it's their option as to whether or not I receive that 50% that's in the bank.
That's awesome.
And so I'm very dedicated. I tell everyone my skin's in the game. And I think that that matters to me. I am motivated by money, just like everyone is. I'm not only coin operated, but I'm also success operated. By the way, if we start off and you tell me you want to play football for the Chicago Bears and you're a 5'2", 210 guy, I'm going to say you're an idiot, but you're not getting in my program. Let's be realistic about what we're trying to achieve. Let's make it straight, let that infamous stretch goal, and then let's work together to make sure that you achieve it. Because at the end of a year with me, you will be a better leader than when you started.
Well, that actually those stats actually sounds like somebody the Bears would take. But let's go let's go back a second.
I'll sharpen this up a little bit now. Poke the bear, literally.
All right, let's take this back a second, though.
Sure.
And I appreciate that journey you took us on. We don't need to get into what the crime was that put you there, but I'm really more interested in the moment or the moments in prison. You said you hit about the 3-year mark. And what was that tipping point that you went from revenge to service mindset? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It came to me. By the way, I'll tell you the crimes. I took bribes and kickbacks. It came to me that third year, and I'll tell you that the tipping point was when I started to see men that had been in prison when I got there and had gone home come back. And I suddenly realized that
Wow.
recidivism is 90%. That means 90% of people, men, go to prison, experience prison, go home, and come back. That means that they have, you know what they haven't done? They haven't changed who they are, how they act or react, and they commit another crime.
Wow.
And I realized that was me, and that if I did not do something about this, I was going to be a habitual criminal. I'd be coming back because I knew it was in my nature. I hadn't changed. And that realization caused me to sit down with my wife. My wife and I have been married 43 years. So she went through 5.5 years of prison
Wow.
with me, visiting me, driving 5 hours once one weekend a month to spend a day and a half in a crowded, hot visiting room and going home.
Mm.
The fact that I survived because my family supported me is the key here. You have to have support. As a leader, you have to have support. As an individual, a human, you have to have it. But let me tell you the story because my wife is hardcore. So she came down. She's been visiting now 24 times, starting our third year, and she sat in the visiting room with me. And I told her this. I said, I know I need to transform. But I can't do it on my own. I know that too. I want you to be in this process with me, to help me. And she said enthusiastically, no. And by the way, it's hard to shock me. I was shocked. Here's this
Yeah.
woman who loves me, who's been coming down here, who financially supported me while I was in prison at detriment to her ability to support herself, make sure that I lived a decent life while I was in the joint. And she sat there and said, no, I'm not going to help you. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And she said, look, I love you. I lived with you. And I know how you are when somebody criticizes you. Said you not only get defensive, but you go into lawyer mode and you're going to convince me that I'm wrong about what you should do to change.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, so I'm not going to do that. If you think I'm going to drive 5 hours down here to sit in this visiting room and have an argument with you about what I think you should do, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So she
Smart
left.
lady.
30 days later, and I was, like I said, she just knocked me right at the side of the head. But you know what? She was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so I thought about this, and she came down 30 days later in the visiting room. I said, okay, look, you're right. You need to tell me what I need to do to change, and I have to change. And she said, fine, I've got a list. It was a long list. She said, I'm going to give you 3 things a month for you to do, to work on. And when I come down the next month, you're going to tell me what you did to work on the action plan. I love action plans. That's part of my coaching process. We're going to have an action plan with action steps. Why? That's how we can measure what you're doing. Are you executing? By the way,
Right.
if you wait till the end of the year, everybody goes, nah, it didn't work well. Well, sorry, that's not good enough. So she said, and so I was like, okay. And I said, by the way, any other rules? She said, yeah. She said, when I tell you have to change something, you don't get to argue with me. She said, you get to say one thing. What do you think it was?
You get to say one thing.
Yeah, when she told me this, what I had to do, I was entitled to one response. Thank you.
Gratitude. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
yeah.
Yes, gratitude. Thank you. She said, that's all I want to hear. If you've got anything else to say, keep it to yourself. She said, when I come back down, we'll discuss what you need. She leaves. So I'm stuck with trying to figure out what am I going to do. She gave me 3 things. And one of them was you have to be of service. Now think about this. I'm in prison. How am I going to be of service? And I came up with this. I'm going to tell you this because it literally is what changed me, what transformed me. And that is I went to the head of the prison education department. And one of the requirements, if you come into prison without a college, without a high school degree, you have to take the GED. It's required, right? Somebody has to teach the course. I went to the head of it and I said, I want to teach GED.
Mm.
He said, look, you're a 50-year-old white guy. There are 14 young black guys from East St. Louis who are drug dealers that are in this class. And that's what it's going to be moving forward, because that was the feeder into the camp.
Right.
He said, they'll just eat you up. I said, look, I'm a trial lawyer. I guarantee you, they're not going to eat me up. He said, hey, I need a teacher. You want to be a teacher? Teach. So I show up the first day, 14 young black guys who don't want to be there, right? Nobody wants to attend this class. They don't have a choice. And I walked in and I had purchased 14 packs of playing cards. In prison, everybody plays cards. They play them till they wear the numbers off of them. So to get a brand new pack of cards was something, right? And I said, look, you don't know me, I don't know you. This is my deal here. Anybody who doesn't want to listen to me takes a pack of playing cards, you go to the side of the room, and you don't disrupt the class. Play cards. 12 of them left. Their cards went over. 2 guys are sitting there, and I can see it looking at them, Gray. They're like, this is going to be so much fun fucking with this guy. And I was like, picked up the GED book. Now, the GED book is like a telephone book, thick. And I said, can both of you read? And they said, yeah. I said, read the damn book. If you're having a problem, come and find me, because I want you to pass this test. but I'm not passing it for you. You have to pass it. Read the book. Come and find me if you have an issue. We'll discuss it privately. I said, the only thing I'm interested in talking to you about is how you can stay out of prison. That's it. Once you leave, I don't want you coming back. And we're going to talk about how that can happen. That was it. 3 weeks later, all 14 of them were in the class.
Whoa.
Think about these young black guys, 18, 19 years old. They're living in depressed areas, economically depressed. There are no jobs. Nobody's trying to improve them. And so when they get out of prison, they go back into their environment. And you know what the job is for them? Selling drugs on the corner
Sure.
until they're shot, or they commit a bigger crime and they spend the rest of their life in prison. And I said, look, I can't give you a guarantee of success, but I can talk to you about what you have to do not to come back here. And that was my course. I taught that course for 4 years. By the way, most of them come back. But the interesting thing was they would come back and they would sit in the class again. And we would have roundtables about, why are you here? My question was, why are you here again?
Right.
You've got to tell me, and you're going to tell this class. And it was a common thread, right? I mean, it's not like there was a unique story most of the time. It was a story that got repeated within the circle. And so probably 20% success rate. And yet I never became discouraged with it because they were sincerely interested. It's the execution. By the way, I tell everyone you can have a plan, but you've got to execute. Most leaders, I've never had a leader say, I've got a plan that's absolutely destined to fail. What I've got's a plan here that can't be executed. So it was about the execution. It was about telling them what they had to do when they got out. And most of it was too difficult for them to achieve, but I couldn't execute it for them. I could only work the plan. And the more I did this, the better I got at being able to tell them, look, part of my, I've got a Substack that I do. And the title of the Substack is When Leadership Theory Meets Reality. Because we all know the theory and we all know reality, and reality wins every time. And that's what these young men faced when they went back. They faced the reality. I could give them the theory, but I tried to get real about what they had to do. They had to go to school, go to junior college, get some education, get a job. Unless you do something to improve yourself, you're just going to continue to do this, and you're going to end up back here.
So, Paul, it sounds like, when your wife came to you there, she was also giving you not only was she giving you great advice, she was giving you your business model.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you went out and you executed it with the inmates, and, you saw your success rate, and you saw the people who actually wanted to change. And my wife's a parent coach, and she does the same thing. She's like, she's not going to change for you, but she's going to be there to help and guide you as you initiate the change. Let's talk about, for the leaders who are listening to this, like, I need somebody to give it to me straight. We talked a little bit about how to overcome those leadership blind spots, that stuff that kind of limits performance. And how do you recognize that? Obviously you're going to tell them, you're going to bring it up, but how do you really help people recognize that?
Well, first, everybody has blind spots. It's built in. It's part of our DNA, whether we like it or not, our personality. And yes, as you become more successful, your blind spots become stronger because you start to believe your own success story. People who are successful obviously recognize it. You know why? Other people tell them they're successful, right? But your company grows, your salary grows, your position grows. And suddenly you're like, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm this guy that is so good at what he does that they reward me. And what you suddenly allow the blind spots to occur because and we've got a lot of built-in confirmation bias, but I like to go to the ones that are actually more controllable. That is, we have to be very cautious about who we listen to. People because as you get more successful, instead of getting more information, you get less. Because people have decided based on how you act and interact with them, what it is safe to tell you.
Right.
You know what they won't tell you? Something you don't want to hear. So if you've already established the parameters of your success and someone challenges that parameter, your reaction is a trigger reaction, and it's not a good one. People are not stupid. Those people in your group that report to you, that you have around you, see what you react negatively to. And they stop doing that because who wants that? Right?
Right.
Who wants their boss mad at them? And so I tell people, you've got this is a blind spot for you. And what you need to do is being very careful about who you're listening to. I've got two groups that I call the sycophants one. The sycophant's the guy sucks up to you by telling you you've never done anything wrong in your life. You're the greatest leader in the history of mankind. They should write a book about you. In fact, why don't you write a book? And look at you, look at you. And he shines the spotlight on you. And you know why he's doing that? He's doing that because he's currying your favor. Blind spot. We love to listen to that guy as a leader. Why
Sure.
wouldn't we? He's telling us exactly what we want to hear. The second one is a manipulator. The manipulator is different because he's just not trying to create favor. He's trying to get you to agree to do something that he or she wants done. And he is going to filter information that you receive so that you see that his position is your position. So when I look at it, it basically goes down to, I tell everybody, leadership and the concept of blind spots is all about two things. Give you three: communication, right? Humility. How about a little humility, right? But you're the greatest thing since, I don't know, the old saying, sliced bread. Are you really? And you have to be perpetually curious. Those things right there destroy blind spots,
Right.
right? You have got to understand that they exist and they're a part of you, and you cannot change them on your own because you can't see them. That's why we call them blind spots.
Right.
But you can reveal them by going through this process.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's switch over to emotional intelligence and understanding your emotional triggers, because you're talking about humility and things like that. I mean, that's going to conjure up some real emotions here, and I'm sure when you've got the sycophants telling you you're the greatest, that's conjuring up some emotion from you, and pride, hubris, whatever you want to call it. But how do you spot that? How do you spot those your emotional triggers, and that they're affecting you in a bad way?
Well, first, we all have emotional triggers. Again, that's built in. And as leaders, we're very sensitive to people challenging us in our position. Because once again, we believe, along with the sycophant manipulator, that we are really great. And what we've done has worked. You had mentioned it earlier. What got you there will not get you there, right? Or what got you here will not get you there. A book
Right.
by Marshall Goldsmith. That's absolutely true. Leaders have stopped realizing that because somebody keeps feeding their information. So the question, of course, is that you have to be open to not overly responding when someone challenges you. Most leaders do a knee-jerk reaction. They may not say anything, but their face exposes the fact that the person that's giving them the information is now not their favorite person.
Right.
So the concept is you've got to first realize this. And I tell people, leaders need to slow down. Everybody wants a fast decision. That's not what I say. I say slow down your decision making, because the faster you're deciding, and by the way, we do this because we believe the team agrees with us, right? And you know what I've done? I've put out the decision, the plan, and we're ready to go. And everybody in the room is doing one of three things. Either they're looking at their computer or down, they're looking at you and going, yes, or they're looking at someone else and shaking their head, but
Right.
nobody says anything. And the leader does not pick up the energy of the room because he's not looking for it. You see, do you really want this? You have to want this. And we overestimate psychological safety. Leaders believe that the room has the psychological safety to tell them the truth. No, they don't. Positional authority by itself will destroy psychological safety. And you, as the leader, have the highest level of position in the room. So you're the one that has to be more open to the communication. But you know what we do? The first thing we do is we tell everybody our opinion. Well, unless I'm an idiot, I'm going to agree with that. You know why? You told me what you want me to say. So to expect people to say something different, well, that's just stupid. I'm sorry. That's leadership is about psychology. And if you
So
can't figure that out, then
right.
you're not going to be able to lead well.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Paul, and I might actually literally be representing the devil on this one, but there's a lot of very powerful leaders these days in all walks of life. And we see some of the most powerful ones doing exactly the opposite of what you're saying. We see them just following exactly what they want to do, surrounding themselves with yes men, just blindly following their vision. And tell me, why is that wrong? I mean, it seems like these are our role models. If you want to be a, a leader, look at these people who have made it to the very top. What do you say to that?
Well, the title of the show says it. Ego over outcome. If you don't care about the outcome, all you care about is the ego, then march on, man. And if you're the leader, I'm not sure who's going to stop you. Well, by the way, I'll tell you what's going to stop you. Reality eventually is going to stop you. And
Exactly.
it is causing havoc, chaos, and disruption. We exist in that world today of the most amount of chaos and disruption, I think, in the history of leadership. And you know how we're responding to that? Not well.
Right.
And so when you describe that leader, unfortunately, that has become the model. The model doesn't work. By the way, it will work for a while.
For a while.
Every system will operate until the stress and tension placed on that system breaks it down. So yes, will they have momentary success? Absolutely. By the
Right.
way, that comes by default, doesn't it? I swear to God, I think that most leaders luck into being successful and then believe that they deserve it. So when you say, what do we do about that? Well, all I can tell you is if I am a follower, I believe I have an obligation to give the leader, assuming I respect them and trust them. Now, if you don't do that, you don't participate. But if this is a leader that you respect and you trust, your obligation is, as a follower, is to provide them with the gift of truth. If you don't want to do that, you need to find another job because the person you're working for isn't worth you. A harsh truth, I'm sorry, but it's there. If you're going to be the person who, I'd actually, my Substack talked about this, and it was about how a leader had come up with this plan and they were going to do it, and everyone was aligned. You see, I love that word. We're all aligned. No, we're afraid not to be aligned. So we step into alignment so that we don't have to face the leader saying, what the hell, man? Everybody else agrees with this. The worst meeting, the meeting that's destined for failure is where everybody is immediately aligned. All that tells me is that everybody's afraid to express an opinion, and therefore there's going to be problems with it. This leader that I was talking to, referenced in my Substack, he said, one person finally said, our customers are really not going to like this. And that generated a discussion that changed the plan. He said it saved us $10 million. One person speaking up. Now, by the way, he was smart enough that when that person spoke up, he didn't shut him down.
Yeah.
And there's this, when we talk about this, so this is a good example about a trigger. That is a trigger. When someone says what you want is wrong as a leader, by the way, we're human beings, right? I don't care how, what kind of, you know what your immediate response is? Defensiveness.
Right.
Oh my God. And when everybody else in the room is agreeing and you've got the guts to say no, that is tremendously valuable. And fortunately, his response was not the knee-jerk reaction. And by the way, that's that triggers, right? When we're triggered, bang, we got a knee-jerk reaction. You know what his response was? Tell me more.
Hmm.
And
Curious.
suddenly the dam broke.
Yeah.
But it takes that first, the ability to resist the knee-jerk reaction. That's huge. Let me tell you about it because I love the science behind all of this because it is psychological, but it's also scientific. When we are faced with someone who opposes us, our position as a leader, we go into flight or fight. Why? That's how we're trained. And
Yeah.
we view that response, that negative response, as a fight as a leader. We're not fleeing, we're going to fight. The secret is don't respond immediately. Do the tell me more question. Why? Well, there's a physical reaction to being prepared to fight or flee. Our amygdala releases adrenaline. Why? We've been, this is survival, baby. Get ready to
Yeah.
run or get ready to beat it. And so it takes our brain 90 seconds to dissipate adrenaline.
I've never heard that.
Well, look it up because I won't tell you anything that's not true, but it
Yeah.
takes 90 seconds. So, what you have to do as a leader to not do a knee jerk reaction is to gain 90 seconds of time for that adrenaline to dissipate so that you are not emotionally responding to whatever the issue is.
Man, the 90-second rule. I love that. That's
It
awesome. Yeah.
is. By the way, everybody's like 10 seconds, not enough. But how you gain that is tell me more,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Oh, that is so good. And I mean, hey, that's business. That's life. That's incredible.
Yes, whatever. I swear to God, when you're triggered, you have to be prepared for taking a defensive maneuver, right? But if you're not prepared, then you don't. And guess what? You say, hey, man, just shut up and get in line.
Yeah.
And from
Yeah.
that point on, nobody shares.
Yeah. You're almost on defending. You're on the defense against yourself, right? In your own
Yes.
reaction.
Well, leaders are their worst enemies.
Yeah.
That's just built in. By the way, I love guys who tell me it's lonely at the top. I say that's because you don't deserve anyone there with you. That's why it's lonely at the top. Somebody would love to be with you. By the way, look at that sycophant creeping up on you or that manipulator. They want to be there with you.
Yeah.
Nobody else wants to. You know why? You're not fit to be around. How about
Yeah.
if we start to change? By the way, the beginning of every coaching operation, whenever I've got a new client, within a very short time, we do the 360 review because I believe that this gives me, again, recovering lawyer. I want some objective information about you that didn't come from you and it didn't come from the guy next to you. I want it to be anonymous as it can be, right? So here we go. We'll have the management team, 8, 10 people. They give me the 360. And of course, what I also have is the leader does the same 360,
Hmm.
right? So now we've got comparative evidence. Because again, I don't know you. And by the way, I've got a good bullshit antenna, but people are pretty damn good about trying to fool you if they want to. So I
Yeah.
can usually shut most of it, but I like to have that objective evidence because now we've got the basis for the coaching. I always love the communication one too, because if you can't communicate, the rest of this stuff just falls apart. I have
Oh,
never seen a leader who does not rate himself a 1 or a 2 on a 5 scale. A 1 or a 2 as a communicator, right? Because they think they're great.
oh, I see.
Well, you know what the team thinks? You suck. But the comment that I use now every time that I've got a leader who gets a you suck, they give them, they think they're going to be a 4 or 5. I apologize. They think you're going to be 4 or 5, and the group thinks you're 1 or 2. So the one comment that was made, because I have a section for open comments, and the one comment was he thinks he's a good communicator because he believes in telepathy. Greatest answer. I was like, oh my God, I love this answer.
That is
Because
awesome.
isn't that true? I mean,
Yeah.
as much as that sounds absurd, we are not, our ability to communicate lacks clarity most of the time to begin with. Leaders in particular are less capable of communicating because they've only got one thing to say. They've stopped saying everything else. They've just got one thing, and they think that if they keep repeating it,
Yeah.
it's going to matter. Well, it doesn't. At some
Right.
point, people are like, how many times are we going to hear this idiot say that? First, it ain't true. Anyway, so
Yeah. Well, Paul, man, I feel like we're just getting the tip of the iceberg here. This has been fantastic. This has been a no BS half hour with you, and I really enjoyed it. If somebody wants to work with you, if they dare, if they go in there fearless and work with you and want to get the real truth, how do they get a hold of you?
very simple. You know, I'm on LinkedIn, but my email is paul@paulglovercoaching.com.
Okay.
Paul@paulglovercoaching.com. That's how you get in touch with me. I answer all emails, of course, and I'm looking for somebody who thinks they're right.
Oh man. I think everybody could use a dose of Paul Glover in our lives, whether we want to admit it or not. So thanks again for joining us, Paul. I really appreciate it.
And Greg, thank you so much for the opportunity. Obviously, I've had a lot of fun just having the conversation, and it's nice to hear that you can actually say something nice about a Bears fan. So I think I've actually I have managed to hit a goal here that I'm gonna value this one.
Right. Well, enjoy it while you can. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Thought Leaders Live. We'll catch you on the next one.